Welcome to today's DMCA video. I'm Rick Chapo with DMCAagentservice.com. Today we are looking at the incredibly fascinating question of why file a DMCA counter notification? Okay, I lied. It's not fascinating, but it is important. The DMCA is a critical internet law, and you need to understand some of the critical functions of it. So what are we talking about with a counter notification? And they're also called counter notices, but the situation generally plays out as follows. Copyright owner, let's say, has some photographs. They're wandering around a forum one day and they see some of their photos posted without their consent. They contact the forum and say, hey, somebody has posted this content, which is ours, without our permission. At that point, under the DMCA, the forum would remove that content. They're then going to contact the person who posted that. Let's say that's you. Okay, well, under the DMCA at this point, you have two options. One is basically do nothing. The content stays down, everybody goes their own way. Or at this point, you can file what's called a counter notification. So the question is, why? Why would you file a DMCA counter notification? There are usually two reasons. One's fairly obvious, and the other one's a little more esoteric because it's aligned to certain aspects of the DMCA itself. So let's look at the obvious one first. You have a legitimate use. Let's say that it's you're writing a review of a book or something of that sort. Well, that's a fair use defense known as criticism. As a society, we have decided that reviews, criticism, things of that sort are something that benefits us. And so we're going to always allow that. You're not really impacting the copyright owner in the sense that you're copying and republishing their content. It's really just a legitimate insight into their product and your views on it. And so in that situation, you would file a counter notification with the forum saying, hey, this isn't an infringement. This is a legitimate use. It's criticism. It's a recognized fair use defense. Go pound sand. And at that point, the forum would put your content back up. The second reason is a bit more subtle. It has to do with something called repeat infringers. So the DMCA in Section 512 contains language that says if a person is essentially repeatedly posting content that infringes on the copyright of others, then there should be a penalty for that. And it requires each online business, websites, apps, whatever, to develop what's called a repeat infringer policy. Now, this policy says that if a person using that platform gets X number of successful DMCA complaints within a particular period of time, their account should be terminated. Now, the scary thing about this is the period of time and the number of complaints usually are pretty low. So we might be talking 3 complaints in 2 years, 2 complaints in 3 years. It just depends on the particular platform and the policy that they have. But you can see how that might have some rather serious ramifications for people, particularly people who are spending time and effort to try to develop an online brand, whether it be their business or themselves. They're trying to become influencers or something of that sort. But if you're spending time, money, and effort trying to develop followers, you run the real risk of losing all that. You literally would wake up one morning and there might be an email from Instagram saying, "Dear Bob or Jill," or whatever. We received a third DMCA complaint regarding your account, which you did not counter, and that violates our repeat infringer policy. And therefore, your account and your 5 million followers has been terminated. Now, at that point, what rights do you have? Can you get that account back? The answer is no, you cannot. And there have been companies in the past that have given accounts back or given new accounts to repeat infringers. And one of those companies was Cox Communications. They're an internet service provider. And they did it, and they were sued over it. And a judgment of $25 million was returned against them. And I can guarantee you every online platform of any size knows about that judgment. And so those websites, Instagram, Twitter, whoever, they're not going to cut you any slack. You may be the greatest poster in the world, but you are not worth $25 million. It's just too much of exposure for them to risk. And the repeat infringer situation is one you really have to pay attention to. It's also important to recognize that a lot of the DMCA complaints that might be filed against you are not legitimate. They're just mistakes or their odd software situations. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I become an Amazon affiliate and I want to sell the Amazon Echo. So I write a post and I publish it on LiveJournal. And the title of my post is The Amazon Echo Does Not Suck. And I have a picture that I took from my affiliate account of the Amazon Echo and I put it up there. And let's say let's say Amazon has a set of software that goes out and hunts for posts about its products and what have you that are negative. And in those situations, if it sees an image with the post, it files a DMCA takedown notice. Is my post going to get a DMCA takedown notice? It may well. The reason being that I have the name of the company, I have the name of the product, and I have the word sucks in my headline. Now, if you read my headline completely, am I saying something negative? No. But the software may not be able to figure that out. And you have to realize that like a company like Google, they get something like 8 million DMCA takedowns every couple of months. I mean, it's just a huge number. And so, those are not individual people that are submitting those. There's software for a lot of this, and the bigger companies are kind of infamous for misusing it. There was a period of time where Microsoft used to serve DMCA takedowns on sites that had published its press releases. And so it was obviously a bit counterproductive, but there you are. So repeat infringer strikes is something definitely to keep in mind at all times if you're trying to build up any kind of online following for yourself or your business. Now, before you go nuts with counter notifications, it's important to keep in mind there are some potential negative ramifications for this. The first one is, as part of the DMCA compliance process, once you file that counter notification, the next step available to the copyright owner is they either have to sue you in federal court for copyright infringement or they have to drop the matter. So you have to have a pretty good idea what they're going to do. And that idea is going to be determined by looking at, do you have a legitimate use of that content? So at this point, you're probably really going to want to talk to a lawyer, have them review it and give you an opinion. So you're making an educated decision. Second thing to keep in mind is you're submitting to the federal court system. You cannot object to a lawsuit being filed in federal court against you on any jurisdictional grounds. It's a technical legal argument, but it is something important to understand. If the lawsuit is filed, your duty is to show up and defend it. And if you don't show up, they'll enter what's called a default judgment against you and then come after your assets and try to collect against those. And then things get complicated and nasty in ways you probably don't want to even know about. So that's it for today's question. Why file a DMCA counter notification? Because you have a legitimate use or because, you need to fight a repeat infringer situation. But if you do have repeat infringer strikes and the complaints are legitimate and you don't have a legitimate use, you need to reevaluate where you're getting your content from because the DMCA is going to catch up to you sooner or later. And you don't want to lose counts that you spent a lot of time, money, and effort trying to build. So that's it for today. If you need a DMCA agent for your website or your app, visit us at dmcaagentservice.com and just use the contact page and we'll be happy to get back to you as soon as possible. That's it for today. Thanks.